And when you look deeper into the nature of humanity and all the genetic modifications that have happened that are still big question marks for modern day geneticists, like, for example, chromosome number 2 being taken out and fused together and 2 telomere caps being put on them, where they mimic, or it mimics exactly what's been said in the biblical text and in the Sumerian tablets. Your years will be 120. We now know that by Harvard scientists investigating this, that because of the telomere caps on chromosome number 2, the average lifespan under the best conditions of a human being should be about 120 years, or the maximum, I say, the maximum lifespan should be 120 years. So just we have like modern science. Say. Exactly. It's so crazy. It's backing up the ancient text, right? It's right in front of our eyes. And also, with some of this genetic modification, I personally believe that they added something called a worship gene. Because let's take a look at this, first of all. The concept of worship gene suggests that human spirituality and the inclination toward religious experiences must have a genetic component. This is modern genetics university study books now. This idea gained prominence with the geneticist Dean Hammer's 2004 book, The God Gene, How Faith is Hardwired into Our Genes, where he proposed that the vascular monoamine transporter 2, or VMAT2 gene, influences spirituality by affecting the monoamine levels in the brain. They discovered this gene, this worship gene, that's been encoded and embedded into the human genome. It's responsible for packaging neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine into synaptic vessels for release into the synapse. So when we have this urge, this innate urge in us to want to worship something outside of us, and when we do that, we get the release of these hormones and so forth into our body, which makes us feel good. It makes us think we're doing the right thing. And I personally believe that these beings genetically modified us that way so that we could worship them, so that we would do the work for them without feeling like we were slaves. We would bear the load of the EGG without feeling like we were slaves, because to us, it was an honor to work for the gods. It was an honor to take our first harvest and to slay the lamb and bring the offerings. It was an honor. We did it as an honor of the gods. We didn't feel like we were enslaved. And the best kind of slave is a slave who doesn't know he's enslaved. And I believe that's exactly what happened to us.
Well, that's very interesting, because my understanding of that research is that hormone that is produced is actually a very lovely hormone that makes us feel very connected with everything. It's really like a spirituality feeling. Yeah. And so that could certainly be exploited, or it could just be enjoyed. But what's interesting to me is that there's another way in which religion has manipulated us, and that is going to the very primitive part of our brain, which generates our fight, flight, or fright response. And when you look at the distortions of religion to produce, for instance, the doctrine of hell that I mentioned earlier in passing, now you're pressing the fright button, and you've got a flight response from things you think are going to hurt you, and then you've got a paralysis response, the fright response, when you've just been terrorized. I mustn't think for myself. And so it's almost like there's a carrot and stick that was available to those who are managing us in the deep past and those who manage us in the present. I mean, if you want to look at how crowds are controlled today, how governments seek to maintain order in their societies, it's carrot and stick in exactly the same way it ever was. Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. And, something interesting about this whole concept of Satan and the devil and how much power he has. It's always a gender-based entity, by the way. He has a lot of power. And I had an experience where I was on the beach and I was just kind of meditating by the water. And a gentleman walked up to me, and when I looked up, he was trying to hand me a bottle of water. So I knew right away he was coming to preach to me, because that's what they do at the beach out here. They walk around and try to catch people off guard and offer them some water so they can start preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ to them.
And we got into a conversation about Jesus and the Bible, and he had asked if I had given my life to Jesus, if, taking him as my Lord and Savior. And I said, no, I hadn't. And he got a little offended, and he said, well, why wouldn't you want to do that? And I said, because I believe I'm directly connected to the divine. God is in me and I'm in God. And so therefore I don't need a middleman. But that led into the conversation of me wanting to just really peer deeper into his understanding of Satan, the devil, because from what I had read in the Gnostic texts and Nag Hammadi and so forth, it really seemed as if what people have been led to believe in the biblical text might be something extremely sinister. And so I said to him, tell me more about Satan, the devil, because now I'm asking him questions I know the answer to. Oh, he's powerful, the right hand of God at one time. He led the other angels astray. He's not an angel himself. He's actually a cherubim. And wherever he goes, the music follows him. And he just kept going on and on. Very powerful being. He can whisper in the ears of people and he can get them to do the most horrendous things and so forth and so on. I said, so you're telling me that this being, this Satan, the devil, has a lot of power, which means he probably has a very high IQ. You think he has a high IQ at more than the human being? Oh yeah, much more than a human being, super high IQ. I'm saying this is a really intelligent and extremely powerful being if it can actually whisper in the ears of billions of people and get them to do things. Oh yes, it is. I said, so you're telling me that this super highly intelligent, probably 1,000 IQ being with all this amazing power, almost the same level as God itself, is going to listen to the words written in this book that you call the canonized Bible and go and follow its track to its own demise. Oh yeah, it's going to burn. He's going to be cast into a lake of fire for all eternity. I said, So you're telling me that a book that was written by men and has this laid out plan far in advance, eons in advance, this being is going to follow it? Yes, he has to. I'm like, it's more likely, in my opinion, that this being actually orchestrated this text in the format and the remix that it's currently in to get human beings to follow it to its own demise. And they've been probably chasing and following without knowing it, the same Satan, the demon, the devils, and everything else, the dark entities that they've been running from. And he gasped. So, I mean, it's a different take and look on what's happened with the original message that I think that the biblical text was trying to impart with all the remixing, and altering, and the changing and everything else, because there's a lot of great information in the Bible. As a matter of fact, there's information I apply to my life on a daily basis in there, right? But it comes down to a certain level of discernment, because you can easily get carried away into believing things like you said earlier, it's okay to dominate and enslave someone, which people did. It's okay to kill these people because in the name of God, I'm killing these people in the name of God. You see? So all these things are okayed by this doctrine, but not realizing, how do I distinguish between what's spiritual and what's man's impact on this text to get me to be manipulated into doing things based on an agenda. And so once we realize that, all of a sudden our eyes are opened, right? The veil has been lifted. And I think that's what people have to begin to understand. There's a much deeper story here. And we can't throw away the baby with the bathwater, but we have to really analyze and break down the information.
That's exactly right. I think once you realize that the word Elohim is a plural, it means the powerful ones, and we're reading the stories of the powerful ones. That's the beginning of reframing how we read the stories of the Hebrew scriptures. And then if you read Psalm 82 or Deuteronomy 32, you'll realize that Yahweh is one of the Elohim. He's in fact a junior member of the Elohim. The council is presided over by someone else, El Elyon. That's the powerful one, more senior than the others. And it's El Elyon who parcels out portions of land to different Elohim. And then Yahweh gets a people group with no land. So that's why I say he's a junior, and he then has to go to war in order to get land for his people group. That frames all these stories of violence and xenophobia, enslavements, all the rest of it, all these perverse laws that get brought in that you were just describing,
Mhm.
when you're reading them in the world of faith and you think these are all God's stories, as I said before, you have to park your conscience, you have to park your morality. As soon as you've read the source stories and realize, oh, okay, these are actually retellings of Babylonian and Assyrian stories,